Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our corner office chats. I am Alexis, and with me is Mehreen, and we are your high performance coaches. Today, we have, one of these conversations that I think we really need to have, every so often to remind ourselves and get back in touch with who we are. And we're talking today about, self leadership, and that it starts with knowing yourself. Right? We talk about this a lot of being self-aware in order to be other aware. And I think this is, like I said, a conversation that we need to keep coming back to, keep revisiting with ourselves, with our coaches, with our teams, with our partners, to really sort of tap back into, who we are at that foundational level.
Mm-hmm. And this is the topic that's really important for anyone, right? No matter where you're at, whether you're a leader, whether you're a team player, wherever you are in your life right now, it's really knowing yourself, knowing your best self.
Yeah.
Like when is it that I'm feeling in the flow? When am I feeling the most vibrant? And really getting to the core of, what is it that you value within yourself and others? And that's where you're going to start building your own self-leadership and being consistent along the way. Because I love what you said. And before we started, Alexis, you were talking about consistency. Like, how can we be authentic and consistent no matter what we're up against or where we're at, whether we're working in our professional environment or whether we're at home or whether we're with our friends. So what does that look like?
Yeah.
So
And I want to ask you guys, like, are you showing up the same way when you are at home, right? Like Maureen said, when you're with your team, when you're with your kids, when you're with your girlfriends or your friend, your family, your social circle. Are you fundamentally the same person? Because we all know people that are completely different individuals at work than they are at home, right? And I get there's a way of acting, or there's a way of, there's expectations given a situation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about on a fundamental level. Are you the same person? Is whoever's with you getting that core essence, that core being of who you truly are? Or are you putting on a show? Are you, are you doing something that you think the other person wants to see, hear, or, be involved with? And, it's this conversation around, being authentic to who you are. And I think the only way to show up authentically, whether that's at work or in any other situation, is to truly know yourself, right? To know your values, to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals, the visions that you have, your aspirations, your dreams, all of those things. And most people don't ever ask themselves these things. They never actually check in with themselves on these very, core beliefs, or very foundational level of their identity, right? And I think it's a really important question to ask.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, in your opinion, when you're not your true authentic self? What do you think are the symptoms, Alexis? I'm just curious, like, what would you think those symptoms would look like for someone?
I think, like, the as soon as you started asking that question, like, exhaustion came to mind. Like, imagine having to be 5 different people in one day, like in the morning with your family, when you get to work, during a meeting with the colleagues, during a meeting with the boss, and now you're back at home with your partner or your family, like, and you're a different person. To me, that is just exhausting. So if you feel like you're always having to be on, I feel like that's the very first symptom that you're not showing up as your authentic self. Because if you're sure that there's no real effort in, okay, wait, let me back up. There is effort, because most people don't do it. But when you are truly just like, we love that, that flow state where you're not really thinking about it. You're just like in this amazing flow state. Things seem to be working. You're creative, or if you're a funny person, if that's part of who you are, like the jokes are flying. It seems effortless, because that's who you truly are. We work to show up all these, in different ways, and all these different personas of what we think people want from us. But if we're actually really in touch with who we are, I think it should be effortless. You're not having to remember, oh, what did I tell this person? Or what are they expecting of me? It's
Mhm.
just you being consistent with the best of who you are.
Yeah,
So
and in my opinion, I think if you start paying attention to your energy, like your energy level when you're with people, you want to notice that when does it feel the best? I know like whenever Alexis and I meet up, my vibrancy is up here because we're very connected. We are very excited with what we're doing, what direction we're going. So my vibrancy level goes up. Or after a coaching call, if I'm coaching a client and we've had a big win, my vibrancy goes up. And then there's times where I'm having to be in a meeting and it's just like I was just telling you, I was like, there's like butting of heads and all this stuff, then my vibrancy level goes down. I'm frustrated. And I want to say something. I want to do something. I feel like I'm not my authentic self at that moment. Then maybe that's something that I need to look at for myself is that, well, how am I showing up? Am I being my true self? Am I being totally self-expressed in what I need to say about it? And being connected to that, also like with our partners, right? With our partners, how are we being with them is really important too. If we're having to hold back or just give in, then
yeah,
eventually I think what starts to happen is we start to resent them or we resent ourselves. Resentment starts to set in. So you want to also look at like, are you truly being yourself? What I've also found is that once I start being more authentic with myself and the way I'm showing up, it gives space for others to show up authentically and completely vulnerable if needed,
mhm,
And I mean, I told you like this. It's funny. Like I'll meet people and they're like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I feel like I said because there's no judgment here. Whatever you say is true to you, regardless of what I think. It's you. You're expressing yourself, and you feel that space from me. That whatever you say is what you say, and I'm
yeah,
okay with it. Then that's why you feel this freedom to speak whatever it is.
yeah.
I didn't realize that I was doing that until somebody kept saying that. A few people, and I was like, "What is it that I'm doing?" And I think either you said or somebody else was telling me, they're like, "Well, I feel like I'm not being judged when I'm talking to you."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone, I was gonna say, I think everyone should have like a best friend as a coach because we strive to create that like objective, judgment-free zone. And I don't think a lot of people have that in their lives. But if you have a best friend, like if you have a best friend from like when you're kids and like you tell your deepest, darkest secrets,
Mhm.
it's the type of thing you do something super embarrassing and you're like, I'm not gonna tell anybody, but then you call your best friend, you're like, I wasn't gonna tell you this, but if you have that person in your life, that conversation is so much easier and you feel better after having that because you're allowed to be yourself. You're not walking on eggshells. You're not wondering what they're thinking, how they're judging you. And I'm so grateful, Mehreen, that like we are in each other's lives, that we found each other because I never have to feel like I have to put on a front for you or worry about you judging me. And I mean, we've shared a lot of stuff. I mean, we're business partners, but we're really great friends. And
Mhm.
you know funny, and like we've only met in person for 1 week when we were certified together. The
Well, it
rest has
was
been
like 3 months. Yeah.
yeah. So it doesn't matter. It's about distance. It doesn't matter about being in person or not. It's about how you feel in that situation with somebody. And because we're both in this space and we've both done our own inner work, we just naturally showed up as our true selves, and we've made space for each other, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's what we want to create for you guys as well, for those of you that are watching. Like, how can you tap into what are those core qualities? What is that kind of on a foundational level, the best of who you are? And it's going to be different for everyone. So if you've been following us for a while, then you may have, heard us talk about clarity of self before, but it's so important. And what we're talking about here is there's a really powerful exercise. It's incredibly simple, but incredibly powerful. And it is coming up with 3 words that define the very best of who you are as a person, right? Not thinking about who you are in relationships. It's just you on your own, doing work, at rest, like in all, just you showing up. How would you define the best of who you are? And, part of this exercise is coming up with 3 words. And then once you have those words, and when you say those words, or you're rolling them around, something should light up in you, because you're connecting with those words. You feel sort of this energetic pull towards those words, because you're like, yeah, that absolutely describes me, like at the core of me, whether you show that to people right now or not. And so once you come up with these 3 words, you want to put them in a place where you're going to see them multiple times a day. So we always recommend, like, if you have a cell phone, most people do, program it as an alarm label, so that it comes out, it rings a couple times a day, and you can look down, see the words, take a second and be like, right, these are my 3 words. Am I showing up this way right now?
What are your 3 words?
My 3 words are present, vibrant, and curious.
Mm-hmm.
So that is who I was, or who I am. That's who I was as a kid. I was very much in the moment as a child. I was always like loud and laughing and joking and just loving life. And I asked a lot of questions. My poor teachers, my poor parents. But that's who I am. And I found, as I was getting older, in different situations, when I would go into different roles at work, or as I started to progress in my career, I started to like dim that light. Like, I'm like, I better not ask the question, because then I'm going to look like I don't know, and then they're going to judge me. Or I better not be too much. I was the youngest director in the organization that I worked, and I was 20 something, and sitting in a boardroom with 50-plus-year-old white men. Let's be serious. That's what it was back then. And I was like, I don't want them to think I'm immature, or, not take me seriously. So let me just like be serious. But I'm hilarious. I like to have a good time. I like to joke. That is me. So once I tapped into that, and I started to bring that and, more of myself, I started to create really incredible, deep relationships and connections with my team, which made us do incredible things for the organization, like off the charts numbers, increases in every area. Like, and they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't do anything. Like, I had that thought, but I'm like, but I'm creating that relationship that makes people want to show up to work and work, right? They're now bringing their best self to work, because I'm bringing my best self to work, and we're creating those authentic relationships.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's really great. And you know what? That's what you bring every time. You're always vibrant. Even if there's heavy things going on, you still bring some vibrancy to it, because you're always striving to be your best self, right? And I've always acknowledged that. And thank you for bringing up, when we first met, I remember, I think things were a little bit bumpy in the beginning when we were looking at bringing the business together. And I was completely authentic and vulnerable to you, and you were very welcoming to it and understanding and almost forgiving, because I was actually, I think I apologized to you that I think I made some choices or took a direction that I didn't even realize would come back and bite me in the rear. So, but everything worked out for the best. So, but thank you for that. And that's one thing that I think was my biggest learning last year was, and having you stick by there, that I knew that I was like, well, this is a friendship. And we know each other in our personal lives too. Like, we know about each other's kids and everything. So it's really great to have that partnership. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. When you are completely authentic and vulnerable with yourself, then you can create those connections. When you are clear of who you're being and how you're showing up, where you're not feeling judged, then and not caring about if anybody's judging. I'm very open about my past or the struggles that I go through, because I think that we all are going through our own struggle. And when we start to share and be vulnerable around that, it gives that space for other people to be open as well. And Definitely. So my 3 words are being present, connected, and connected is really important to me, because I felt like growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of connection, and that's what I strive to build for myself, and that's what I have now. And so in any aspect, if I'm in my job or in my business or anything, I want to build connected relationships so that we're on the same page. We have that ebb and flow of moving forward and building that excellence. And then my third word is limitless. I I'm like, what, rules are made to be broken, okay? No. No, I believe in rules, but I also look at how can we make things better. We can be limitless in any area, right? Why do we have to say that we're confined inside this box? Let's think outside of the box and let's go there. And let's be confident that whatever happens, happens, whether it's good or bad. If we we either win or we learn, right? So that's really important to me because that helps. That optimism helps me to keep moving forward. I know
Mhm.
that for myself.
Yes.
So, and it's not always easy to be optimistic. And when those times come, when you know yourself and you're not feeling optimistic, or you're not feeling like yourself, then those are the times that you can take and say, what is it that was in place for me that worked and what didn't work? Where was I not being my authentic self that has me feeling this way right now? And, we talk about doing the self assessment, which is really important. If you do that um, on a daily routine, then
Mhm.
what happens is cognitively you start to change your behavior. You start to become that better self that you want to be, and it starts to happen naturally over time. And that's when you build that um, self leadership style that you want for yourself, and it'll encourage others to do the same thing. So this is a perfect segue into social clarity.
Yes. So the clarity of self, like we just explained, guys, is who you are, how you're showing up, just in any situation, even like on your own, how you tackle problems, all of that. The social clarity now, we're looking specifically at when you are with others. And I like to phrase it this way for myself because it helped me when I was coming up with my social clarity words is what experience do you want to create when you're in the presence of others? How do you want other people to feel when they're in your presence? So I love this because it is different than the clarity, right? Because that's just how you're showing up, who you are in any way. This is specifically when you're now with others. And so creating those social clarity words really helps you, whether you are, a leader of a team, whether you're thinking about leadership in terms of, you're the leader of your family. Um, how do you what experience do you want to create? How do you want them to feel when they're with you? This also starts to create trust, right? And what's the other word I was thinking of? When you know somebody, you know exactly what you can count on them for, right? It
Mhm.
starts to sort of create that. They know you're the go-to for this because this is how you always show up. This is how they always feel when they're with you. There's that consistency and that they can depend on you for certain things. And this is what helps to build really strong relationships. But again, it starts with you. So what experience do you want to create when you're with others?
Mhm.
Um, so again, we want you to come up with 3 words that are going to define you in social situations. What are your social clarity words, Marie?
Mine are authentic, confident, and inspired.
Excellent. Nice. I
Mhm.
know being present, whether that's in the moment or with others, is really important to me. So one of my words is engaged because being present for me, I think about it as when I'm doing when I'm reading a book. I want to be where I am. When I'm
Mhm.
on a walk in nature, I want to take in the surroundings, right? When I'm with somebody else, I want to be present, but I also want to be, engaged in that conversation, make them feel as though I'm in that with them. So engaged to me, it is that word that makes me think of being present in the moment, but also contributing to that moment, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So that's one of my social clarity words and how it kind of changed a little bit from my clarity word, my clarity of self word, but still has that feeling for me. I also want one of my words is caring. I want people to feel as though I genuinely care about them because I do. Um, you know, I love meeting new people. I'm like such an extreme extrovert. I love hearing people's stories and I want them to feel that as well. Right. So, engaged, caring is another one. I've changed mine recently. Now I can't think of my third social clarity rule, social clarity word. I think it was fun. It had been fun for a long time, and I wanted to kind of get that word down a little bit more.
Mhm.
That I really can, because fun could mean a bunch of different
I could
things,
see
but
fun. I could see that. Yeah.
it's like any situation. I want people to be like enjoy their time with me.
Yeah.
I know fun has been on my list for a long time. So we'll go back with fun for now, because I know I just redid my list a few weeks ago. And this is the thing. These words, you want to connect with them. But when you do these exercises and you really start to connect, then you start to just live into this. You don't need the reminder. You start to do that naturally. So
Mhm.
it's nice to revisit these, because sometimes, as you start to grow and as you start to evolve as a person, these words could change slightly, right? Because they could also be aspirational words that
Mhm.
it's important to you, but you're not really showing up that way all the time, right? So sometimes I'll change my word when I'm like, patience for one. I have when I had a toddler, he's now 4, so I guess he's kind of out of the toddler stage now. But
Mhm.
when we had that really trying that three-nager stage that we called it, like I needed patience, so I actually changed one of my words to in the social period to patience, because I wanted to remind myself, to be a patient mom, to take a step back, to understand that he's learning and experiencing the world for the first time. So it's okay to change the words. You just want to make sure that you're really connected to them, and that they do something for you when you look at them. It doesn't just become this routine that, oh, there are my words, okay, let's keep going, or you just say them. You actually connect with them, and you change your behavior in that moment if you're not
Mhm.
showing up that way.
Yeah. They're really great. And these are really important. So when we're talking about clarity of self and social clarity, that's what's going to help you with really knowing yourself and really building that self-leadership, right? Is managing yourself and how you're being. We can't control others. You know how we say that, oh, I wish they were like this, I wish they were that way. Those are your expectations. We cannot ask somebody to change, right? We can maybe tell them that these are my expectations, or we can work on ourselves. When you start to work on yourself, things around you will naturally just start to transpire and change. So that's why self-leadership really, really starts from knowing yourself, how you're showing up, and what experience you want to create for others. So really great. So this concludes our session on self-leadership starts with knowing yourself. We'd love to hear what you learned about yourself just in this conversation today. So please comment below and let us know. We'd love to interact with you. And if you're listening to us on our podcast, you can look us up on goalsetcoach.com. You can learn more about us there. We're all over social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And follow us there. We'd love to see you and get your input on what does it take for you to show up and really create that self-leadership for yourself, and what helped you get there. And if you're not there, what are you going to take on going forward? So we're here every Thursday at 1:30 Eastern in the Corner Office Chats, and we're just talking about what it is that's going on in the world. What is it that's important to you? So if you're looking for a space where you can come in and be with us, we have our Facebook group community called Women Who Lead. You can look it up. It's Women Who Lead within the Facebook, and you can interact with us there. So thank you so much, Alexis, for being on with us today, and we will see you next week.